Hey everybody, this is Brian again. We're back in the shop. I finally got a FC170 in here that a FC owner is letting me borrow, and I'm making some patterns today. We're working on the rear corners right in this area, and this truck has a very nice set of rear corners. At least the passenger side's very nice, so I'm going to make a pattern of that. I'm going to pull a door skin pattern off, and I'm making a pattern of this section right in here and this little guy right here. So I'm just going to give you a quick show of how I make patterns, just in case that when this truck leaves, anybody needs anything, they know how to make a pattern so I could build a sheet metal part for it. So I'm going to get set up and show you basically how I make patterns. Okay, and then if we have time, we'll make a rear corner on the power hammer. Okay, be right back with you. Okay, here we are on the rear corner, and I'm just going to give you a kind of abbreviated version of this. What I did was take some chipboard. This is just cardboard. It's called chipboard. Upholstery shops use it, and I find it real good for making patterns. So I've got this fitting nice along this seam, and this is the same. It's kind of a changing radius. It's larger up here than down here, and the sides kind of taper in, but this piece will fit right in that area too, on that seam. And if this wasn't here, you'd see it fits in the center. I already checked that out. And I'm making all my patterns kind of big. You can cut them to whatever you need. Here's a section for the top. Goes around this area here. Scribe that in perfect there. And I've got a lower one, goes down there, and that's also scribed in good. And I've got the flanges marked right here and right around there. And so these are our chipboard templates, and from this is where we're going to make our wooden template. So I got these fitting real good. We'll go over to the bench and I'll show you what I make to fit that panel onto. So we'll head over to the bench now. Here's our wooden buck that I made from those templates. On the cardboard, we took the outside radius and everything of the truck, but we want to fit our piece to the outside of this. So we're going to basically be using the negative of that. So these fit real nice on here, and our radius is, I hope you can see this. I just got the camera propped up. Our radiuses are going to work out real nice at the locations we had on the truck. Here's the top one. And that'll fit right around here. So that right now is the buck for the rear corners. I finally have one. I can start making those for anybody that needs them. And we'll get to that in just a minute. I've got some holes put in here all around, in here and here, so we could see how the panel's fitting on the form. So I've got that made, and I have let's see what I got here. That's for the door skin. I'll show you a little more on that. This is that little section right under the door. Well, we still got to add and make adjustments on here. And this is for that section that goes up against the cab corner. And again, we've got to add material for our flange, and we've got to get that the right curve. That's going to follow the curve of the cab corner. But we'll work all that out. And this is basically where the bends are going to be, right on this line here. So I'm going to have to do that in the flanger. So that'll be our bend line, and we have to add enough material. This is a 3/4 flange, so we'll add 3/4 of material there, and we'll get that built to fit right up against the cab corner. So the truck has been real good. It's in real nice shape, so I was able to get some perfect patterns off it. And we'll start building some pieces from here. Okay, we're gonna make a template next. I'm going to make a paper pattern of the cab corner, show you how that's done, and then we'll cut out some sheet metal, and we've got a lot of shrinking to do on that corner on the power hammer. So that's coming up next. Okay, to make our pattern, I've got some just some body shop masking paper there, something you put on the car to protect from overspray. It's easy, it comes on big rolls, and it makes real nice paper patterns. And I use magnets to stick it to the truck. And if you look in this area, you can see we could just basically lay it across the panel, and there's no shrinking or stretching needs to be done. It just lays real nice there. Okay, so that's not too bad. And then as we come down, you can see it still lays pretty nice. But we're going to get down to this bottom section. It may be hard to film in here, but I'll see what I can get. Okay, now you got to treat the paper like your metal. And basically we folded that over, we took a tuck. So we know that needs to be shrunk in there and shrunk in there, and it really comes under the bottom there. So that's where most of the shrinking is going to have to take place. So what we're going to do is we're going to scribe a line here where our shrinks start, right around this area here. And we're going to want to stop our shrinks a little bit ahead of that, because the shrink will continue into the panel. We don't want to wrinkle any of this up here, because then it won't sit right on there. So we're gonna we're gonna mark a line here and mark our shrinks. And basically we left this a little long here. See, there's the seam there. We're going to put a flange on that after, and then we're going to put a flange right there after. So we left the pattern a little bit long. We'll cut our sheet metal a little long, and we'll start to make one of these. So let me get that mark scribed on there, and I'll show you what we got. Okay, that's where I think our highlight line is going to start. Right about there. That's where our shrinks are going to start to take effect, and then go from there down. So we've got that marked. We don't want to take our shrink dies any further past that. And I know how far my shrink dies will affect the panel, so we're probably going to stop somewhere in this area here with our shrink, and that'll continue to go that far. So we'll trim the paper a little bit on the bottom. We'll take it over to the bench, unfold it, and we'll run that on a sheet of 18 gauge steel, mark a pattern, and head to the power hammer. Okay, we're back at the buck again, because we're not going to have the luxury of having the truck here past Friday, so we're going to have to make our patterns off of the buck. And that's fairly easy to do. You just lay your sheet on there, and you can see it lays pretty nice. It's not as great as having the actual truck here, but it lays pretty good. But you see down here, see how much I have to tuck that over to get it to lay. That's where all the shrinking has to take place. See, I'm putting a lot of tucks in there to get it to fit right. So you can fit to a buck just as well. You could take little push pins and stick them into the wood, little thumbtacks or something, stick them into the wood, and it's not a bad way to go. You can make a pretty decent pattern off of that. And like I say, most of our shrinking is going to take place down here. You see how that really has to get, that really comes around. It comes around to, okay, there it is there. See that red mark right there? The buck runs a little long, but that's where our panel stops. It's right there. I'm trying to hold the camera and show you, but right at that red mark. So the panel will come down, start curving around, and end right there. And then it has a little radius, you know, inside there. But that's a couple different ways to make a paper pattern. And we're just gonna open that up, lay this on a sheet. We're gonna for sure put our highlight line in there and our shrink line, and then we know we're gonna be shrinking in this whole area right in here. Maybe take some out to each side like that, and we'll start to bring that and start to curve that around the buck. Okay, so I'll get the sheet out and we'll get that laid out. There's our paper pattern on a sheet of 18 gauge. We'll just move it over a bit. Okay, there's our highlight line. And I know that we're going to stop our shrink about there. So, just this piece of sheet metal, a couple marks on it. Kind of dark, you can't see it, but we're going to take our shrinks and we're going to go in here, come back out, and here, come back out, and we're going to keep putting shrinks in this area here. And then maybe we'll come in a little bit this way and a little bit this way, and we'll have to double shrink the bottom because that's really where it's got to get shrunk a lot. And we'll just see how it's coming out. We'll start to bring that in, and we'll start with a big sheet, and we'll cut it as needed. This is probably going to have to get cut, you know, like this and like this, but we want to keep enough so we can add our flanges in there and we have enough to hold on to and work with. So it looks kind of messy there, but that's basically the pattern we're going to take with our shrink dies. And just like when we made the front corner, we'll shrink it, then we'll bring it over to the other side, we'll smooth it out and see what kind of development we have, and then bring it back and forth from shrinking to planishing and back and forth, and we'll wind up with a cab corner. Okay, we'll meet you over at the power hammer. Okay, we're gonna put our first fit on the buck here. We're pretty close there. We're starting to come nicely on the left side. And we're getting there on both sides. This is the area we're gonna have to work on. You see, we got to get our sheet metal up to our mark here, and this has got to get shrunk around, and this has got a ways to go. So we're going to keep working on the shrinking side, get that shrunk around, and we'll keep fitting it to the buck and making test fits, and we'll go get all this material brought around here, and we'll trim the top. We'll mark the sides for the flanges and stuff, and we'll get going on that. So that's our first test fit. Not too terrible. Now we know exactly where we got to do most of the shrinking. It's just going to be a short ways in here to get this to curl up. So I'll show you that as it happens. Okay, here we are back at the bench. There's the buck on our piece. I like the way it's fitting on this side. Let's take a look at it here. We're pretty close right on the top. That's got to get trimmed, and the side's got to get trimmed. That side's got a little space over there, but I'm not too concerned about that now. We've got to trim it. So we're gonna get our buck where we like it. Again, the buck is gonna be the bend line right there. We're gonna add 5/8 for a flange, and then this is gonna get run through the flanger. So we're gonna do a little distorting in the flanger, and I'm not too concerned about that right now. We're gonna put the flange on it on both sides, and then we're gonna tune up the bottom here, that last little bit, and trim everything out. I don't want to get those flanges in now because I don't want to take it right to its finished size and everything and then worry about distorting it. So we're gonna get the flanges in. We can make some adjustments on the flanges, shrink or stretch those a little bit if we need to. We'll get the top trimmed, and things are coming along pretty nice. So I'm gonna get set up for that, and we'll do that next. Here's our panel on the buck. I've got some spring clamps on it just to hold it in place. It's getting kind of hard to hold. I don't have enough hands to do it. But I put a flange on there on the Urco flanger. And then I was able to take that flange right here, put it in the shrinker, and bring it right around. It came right around nice on the shrinker. So now we're going to be working on this side. I've got to get my scribe mark in there and then add Hey everybody, having some camera troubles again, but hoping to get through this. Here's our rear cab corner sitting on the buck. I've got it just with some spring clamps on it because it's hard to hold. I had to do a little beating with a hammer in that area to get it that center station fitting right, and we're gonna have to wash over this whole thing with the planishing hammer, and we left it with just a little bit of shape to put in there. You can see the bottom fits real good. When we get done smoothing this out, everything will relax just nice and it'll sit down on that buck perfect. So that's where I'm at right now. I've got some dies in the planishing hammer, and if I can fit the camera in there, I'll show you that process of how we smooth this right out to a perfect finish. So that's where we're headed next. See you over there. Okay, we're set up at the Milwaukee planishing hammer here. I've got my dies installed, and remember, this is a pretty loud unit. You might want to turn your volume down. And we're going to start smoothing this out and putting a little bit of final shape into it. We left it a little bit shy on the power hammer, and we're going to creep up on it now. It's fitting the buck pretty good, but we'll get it to lay perfect on there. So here we go. Okay, here we are at the bench. I think you could kind of see the finish in there. It's hard to see, the lighting isn't great, but super smooth on the outside, I think you can see. And if I can get everything lined up right, I'll show you how it fits on the buck. Okay, that's the panel on the buck. I'm trying to work the camera and show you at the same time, but there was a little bit more scooped out of there on the original. I'm going to leave it long, and you can trim that to meet your sides just right. It's fitting real good. Let me get the camera off the tripod and show you it's hitting all the stations in there. Okay, if you can see in our little peak hole there, you can see the center is hitting perfect. The flange is hitting perfect along the edges here. And we hit perfectly on our mark to bring it under the truck. There's that inner station again. You can see if the light is good. Everything is working out just nice on that. So that's what a finished rear cab corner looks like. Smoothed out and ready for some paint and primer. Primer and paint, I mean. I'll take it over to the truck and show you how far up it goes, so you see you get quite a bit of metal there to patch in those rotten areas. We'll go over there next. Okay, here we are back at the truck again. And I'm going to make all the patch panels. Here's where the door closes. And you can see this is the passenger side. This is where the door closes. So I'm basically following this line level across, and from there down, it's a good section there for a patch panel. And same with this panel here. It always rots out right there along where the fender flare is, so that one's going to come across there. And I'm making that little patch panel there too, because that one always seems to rot out. Here is our completed cab corner. That'll fit on like that. You see the flanges will fit right where they go. And that's what the cab corner will fit like on there. Should give everybody enough metal, because usually you're not routed that high, so it should give you enough to patch in pretty nice. So we'll have the corner, and basically you'll be able to change from the corner all the way to the almost the middle of the door. And I'll take you underneath there. That next panel, it's hard to see because there's a bed on here, but that next panel in there, I'm going to make that one too. And that'll go right to the area where it jumps up to go over the frame. So it's about 10 inches long in there, and that follows this curve down, and it's not a terrible piece to make, so I'll be making that one too if anybody can use it. And if there's any other FC parts you need, feel free to give me a shout and let me know. I'm trying to bring a line of parts out for you guys that are having a hard time finding them. I've got a nice pattern for the door. I'll probably make the door skin from just under the lock here, and that'll come all the way across. And I'll put some edges on it so you could crimp it on your door nice. So those will be available. And I do make the front corners, as you know. You saw the last video on that. And hopefully I'm making all the tricky pieces. But if you need anything else, just send me a message, or leave a comment, or hit the like button, or subscribe, and let me know what you want to see or what kind of parts you need, and I'll do my best to get them out there for you. Okay, appreciate you watching. Thanks.